Le sommet international de l'éducation du futur réunit une soixantaine de conférenciers du monde entier. Des pionniers et des innovateurs issus du monde de l'éducation, bien évidemment, mais également des êtres inspirants, issus des chemins de sagesse ou des chemins d'apprentissage et de créativité dans différents domaines. Les arts, les sciences, l'économie, le lien avec la nature, le sport, etc. Des expériences et des chemins de vie qui sont un formidable enrichissement pour le monde de l'éducation. Le professionnalisme des traductions, en simultané, et l'incroyable richesse de toutes ces conférences offrent un horizon de point de vue vaste et varié, très complet, qui en font au final une véritable formation professionnelle pour les enseignants, les éducateurs et tous les professionnels de l'éducation, mais également une formation à la parentalité consciente et une formation individuelle à la vie consciente. Face à toute cette richesse et aux divers retours, nous avons décidé d'offrir toutes ces conférences à tous, partout dans le monde, en français et en anglais, quelquefois en allemand et en espagnol. Découvrez la vision d'acteurs audacieux et influents du changement, vers un monde éthique, solidaire, généreux et profondément respectueux de tous, des cultures, des peuples, des règnes et de la planète. Un incroyable panel de conférences, couvrant toutes les dimensions de l'éducation, pour un futur ayant du sens, une humanité épanouie et une terre qui respire. Une chose est sûre, votre vie, et à travers vous, celle des enfants, ne sera plus la même après avoir écouté toutes ces conférences. Pour avancer, nous avons besoin de vous, nous avons besoin de votre générosité solidaire. L'organisation du sommet et l'édition des conférences ont nécessité des milliers d'heures de travail et nécessitent encore beaucoup de temps et d'investissement. Nous faisons appel aux dons libres et spontanés pour compléter le financement du sommet et, si possible, continuer à l'enrichir de nouvelles conférences. Votre soutien est vraiment précieux et vital pour aller jusqu'au bout de cette aventure extraordinaire. Merci.
Okay, I'm very happy to welcome Armelle for the second time. We met already while I was in Nepal with Ramchandra when we had this first summit about the democratic education, and then we had the meditation in March, and many people really liked the meditation. I invite you to go on the French YouTube channel in order to discover the meditation, allowing you to meet these children in another way. Armelle is doing a lot of things. She's traveling a lot between Canada, France, and Belgium, and elsewhere. She's providing trainings on self-consciousness and on the movement, and also on conscious parentality, and that's the subject we are going to touch upon today in the framework of the future of education. And I'm very, very happy to have you today. I'm very happy that you are able to share with us your experience about your parentality. I don't know if Satyana is still here, but it doesn't seem so. So thank you. Thank you, Armelle, for being here with us. You have 1 hour and a half. I'm staying here in order to help you with the questions, and you manage your time as you will. Thank you, Abel. And hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you to share my experience. And I think it's important to talk about education and the relation with children. I'd like to read the subject of my intervention, that's to say, So the theme of the conference is being parent or teacher is a journey of elevation for everyone. So we all need to grow together, because when you become parent, you grow and you learn from your children. The teachers are also learning from their pupils. And I propose to change the education paradigm in order to evolve and to learn. I think that it's thanks to the humility, true humility, that we'll learn, because the love is the most important thing on earth. And I am telling you that because it is really introducing what I'm going to talk to you, what I'm going to say today, because the relationship between parents and children today has to change, or even the one between the teachers and the pupils. We need to raise awareness about the unity of our nature. We are all one, and in this reality, we have to recognize that babies are not empty, they have a conscience. And I think that when we have this approach to say that our children are the mirror of ourselves, we are seeing the things in a very different way. And today, I'd like to invite you to change your vision. That's to say, to try and see the relationship you have with your children, with your pupils, and to understand this vision. And I'm going to touch upon the relationship towards authority. Abel was saying that I was providing trainings, and these trainings, the training that is the most given is to train people to support parents to have a new relationship with their children. And in this training, many things have evolved. And in 7-8 months, people went through deep transformations. And I am very surprised I was very surprised during our last training, because among participants, one wrote to me, and she told me that she always had problems to set limits to her children. And she said that after my training, during this 3 days training, she succeeded in setting up limits, and she wasn't litigating anymore with her son. And when she set the limit, her son was respecting it without asking questions. And I think this is a success, because what I'm hearing a lot in the questions is, for instance, how can I manage the relationship with my child? How will I have my child to obey my rules? And I think that we need to remind that if the relationship we have with our parents is not clear, and if for us it's difficult to be clear in our relationships with our parents, with your boss in your company, you will meet the same challenges with your children. And what's interesting in this moment is to put into question, the relationship towards authority, because for the children or for you, it's difficult to trust the authority or to respect some rules or to understand it. and you see it as a bunch of rules that are imposed to you. And if you have this vision, you will face difficulties. You won't be able to impose your authority to your children. You will face challenges in setting up limits for your children. And the relationship with your children will be very difficult. So when I'm talking about an elevation journey, I think that for the child, it's a way of knowing that he's loved as he or she is. And for you, you need to understand and to learn the same thing. You have to cancel all these beliefs, and you need to stay in your vertical axis with the divine, with God, and learning that being parents means listening to God every time. And I think it's the most important thing in this relationship. It's to understand that we are guides, we are expressions of God, and God will help orient the children and will give them the most appropriate orientation. We shouldn't push the children, we shouldn't oblige the children to be the people we want them to be. They should be themselves. And so the approach I developed about the conscious parentality is not knowing being a parent, not knowing being a child, and the fact that I can ask God, I can ask the life to understand it. And I think it's essential because this will help us to foster the relationship with the children, and our hearts will also find an expression that is adapted, will enter in a special relationship with our child. For instance, when I come back home after a day of work, I'm very tired and my vision will be influenced by the pressure of the time because I am not available to listen to my child. And when I come back from a day of work, my child is difficult, if he or she is crying or doing other things, I shouldn't believe that he or she has a problem. I should take some time for my child. Or when something annoying is taking place or something that is boring me, I need to solve the problem. And when I'm home, I need to come back to this moment to understand what went wrong. And I take this moment out of time. It's a moment during which there is no time anymore. And when there is no time, I live. And when I live in such a space, there is no child, no me. I am there, and the child is there, but without any separation. And I call that my reset moment, because during this moment, I have the possibility to choose to go where I want to go and to create what I want to create. I can make a choice depending on where I want to go. And during this moment, I really need to understand what I want. That's to say peace, harmony, or other things. And I don't know how to reach these objectives because it's difficult to reach them. How can I reach them? But by choosing to stop and to understand, to live the moment and to choose for harmony, peace, or love, I can see what will emerge because this choice will change my energy. If my energy is changing, my child will react differently because you should recall that we are one and not two. If I don't have any stress, any time pressure, and I can enjoy the moment, then my child will feel it and he or she won't be in his or her stress, and because I am totally available for him or her. And when you are 100% available, the child will be secure, and so he won't be difficult to manage. On the contrary, because he knows that his or her mother will be there no matter what. I know that many children who have difficulties are insecure, and it's not that they don't obey, but they are looking for security, and they are looking for limits in order to find you. They are looking for limits because often you're not there, you're lost in your thinking and you're not present. But if you are present during this moment, your child will understand that you are ready for him or her, and he or she, sorry, will be safe. And it is interesting to see the energy with which you're entering the relation. It's like a boomerang. You will launch it and it will come back. Here it's the same. You launch energy and the energy will come back to you through your child. And so as a parent and as a teacher, instead of putting everything in question, you should think about that. And by doing a new choice, harmony, love, or peace, I don't know how to reach this point, but with the energy I have, I will receive this. And so the angry child will calm down, and if not, you will have the space in order to welcome him. And because you will have the space to welcome him, you will not shout at him, and your energy will dance with his or her energy, and you will have a natural synthesis. This is about being love, being harmony, or being peace. And so you are in your inner authority. That's your inner you. And when you reach this moment, the child knows he or she is secure, and he or she knows that you are there. It's not about chaos, it's about life, and it's not boring for you because you are focused, you have adapted your vision, and your child will calm down because now he's in harmony. So it's important, interesting to see that while sometimes we'll shout at our children, we'll try to find a solution, while the only solution is to connect again to oneself, to pause and to to decide, to make a choice.
Qu'est-ce que je choisis ici et maintenant pour cette relation?
So why will I choose for now and the relationship?
Peut-être s'il y a des enfants ou
I don't know if there are children, parents, teachers, if you want to share your experience, to raise questions, to ask questions, please do so.
De pouvoir voir comment vous dansez de votre côté.
And I would be curious to see how you dance with your children, your teenagers, your adults. And for the teachers, I'd like also to see and to understand what do you want to put into place. It's always very interesting to have exchanges, some more interaction. And I will also give you some time to understand your questions. I will propose you to pause for a moment and to focus about the time, the space, and the person you believe in, your vision from the external world. And to feel that everything that was around you is coming back to the center. Everything will go down to your heart. All this attention has to fall down in the belly.
Je vois Anaïs qui dit bonjour, ça a toujours été plus facile pour moi avec mes élèves.
I can see a comment from Anaïs saying that it has always been easier for me with my pupils than with my children. Of course, because we have more affection with our children than with our pupils, and which is what is not clear within the relationship with our parents will have an influence on the relationship we have with our children, or even with our husbands or wives. The fear of not being loved will be more present than with your pupils. But what is interesting is to see what's emerging when everything is fluid, when what is present, what is absent in the relationship you have with your pupils, and also what's happening when you're in your relationship with your children. So what we see is that there is a role to play, and sometimes when in the role of the parents, we believe we are the role we are playing. That's really what I saw in the experience I had with the death of my son. When my son died, I believed I was not a mother anymore. I was losing my identity, and that's thanks to that I could find back my identity. And during the weeks following this death, I was losing my identity. I was asking myself, who am I in the end? I was not a mother anymore. And I didn't know. I wasn't feeling as a woman. I wasn't feeling as a teenager, as a young woman. And so I was trying to find a definition. But who we are has no definition, but we have a definition towards the role we are playing for the other people. I am a woman. I am a man, I am a mother, I am a teacher, I am a here, I am a spouse, I am a husband, I'm a son, and depending on all these roles, there are conditions from the society, and these conditions are non-verbal agreements that are enshrined and that have familial and cultural roots, and these roots are impeding us to enjoy the moment and to have spontaneity. And because of these conditions, we have limitations, and because we are children, pupils, will need to follow an image, and when this image is not matching the reality, that's where we believe there is a problem. There is a problem with my children, my pupils, or my parents. And I really invite you through the journey, the spiritual elevation journey, is to take some distance from these conditions and to understand who's the other person and understand well who you are, and to go beyond these expectations and these beliefs. So what is really nice about parentality is that this approach will help you to understand yourself and to know that now you don't have to go necessarily in an ashram to make a spiritual journey, because our ashram is our everyday life, and our ashram is the relationship you have with the child, being a parent or a teacher. It is about the relationship with your child if you have children. And with this conscious parentality, with the willingness to understand who your child really is, it's important, because that's exactly the journey my son made me go through, and because of his physical absence and thanks to the communication I developed in the absence of his physical body, he made me discover what existed beyond the physical body, what is not the matter that is not dying. And with this part of him, I understood who I was. And I really invite you to make the same journey. I know that being a parent is not easy, because you have the pressure of time, because you have a financial pressure. But being a parent is not easy, and so you all have journeys towards parentality, but it is possible if you want to reach some objectives. And when my son died, I understood that life was very precious, that each moment with one child is very precious, and the importance, the relationship you have, of the relationship you have with your child. And unfortunately, with the death of my son, I understood that this was very important. And last week, I had the opportunity to spend time with the son of my partner, who's 5, and it was magical because I spent a wonderful time with him. I was playing with him in the garden, and we made a puzzle, and when the puzzle was finished, we needed to play another game, and in the end, we were playing on a mousse carpet, on a floor mat, and sometimes we are bored after doing the same thing in 10 minutes. And I saw in his eyes that he was bored. And at this time, I told myself, and he was laughing so loud. We were sleeping on. We were sliding on the carpet, and we were running on this carpet, and in the end we were laughing so loud that the time stopped. And he invited me to be in the same space. And when I let things go, we were playing for a long time, but we were very happy, and I could be in the same moment, in the same cocoon, with all the spontaneity, and we were both laughing in an innocent way. We were all together and enjoying the moment. And so children are asking us to do that, to let things go, to let our ideas away, to leave our roles, to leave our images. For instance, saying that we can't do the same thing for hours, or even towards the tiredness. For instance, he's 5 and he's full of energy. I am 45 years old. I don't have the same energy. But this is not right. It's just that in this moment, full of spontaneity, it's the instant. And for me, all children, no matter their age, because we also have, I have that with a girl of 16, with my niece of 12 years old. When you have spontaneity of a certain vision and only the will to be with them, you have the same possibility on this moment. And I'm going to read a text. It's important to link the fact of being mother. Here I have a comment so interesting to share the fact of being mother, because when we have a child, or because when we lost him or her, or being a woman, because we are in a couple or not, it allows us to have to raise awareness about exchanges, about communication.
On est en couple, on n'est pas femme parce que on a un corps qui est féminin.
You're not a woman because you have the body of a woman, or a man that has his masculine body. You're there with your expression, and if you live in a very energetic way in all parts of life. It all depends. We do not need to define ourselves being a man or a woman, a mother or a father, daughter, son. But what counts is whatever is at the moment. And the spontaneity can emerge, which exists at the very moment. And there's a real meeting taking place. So reading also, we're on the same wavelength. Indeed, when we have this human being taking inspiration from that very instant, is no longer the same. You will never see your children in the same way again. Of course, there always can be what emerges all of a sudden, but somewhere there is this dance, but also this pulsation, this heartbeat, which contraction, expansion, expansion. And this heartbeat, that's life. And that is what life is all about. It's a contraction. So I believe that first I'm playing a role, and then I unleash. I can even come back to a particular suffering that is the expansion. I am whom I am. And this heartbeat, it will be set free more and more. And this contraction can always happen, but it is no longer a constraint, but it's a natural movement, pulsations of being, and those it should no longer be an identity or a suffering, as a matter of fact. Dominic says, I hear what you call the part which never dies in a human being. So what is never born will never die. And what is with me, with you, Dominique, with my son, with Sean, the son of Paz, and we are one, whatever our age, regardless of the gender, regardless of our nationality, the part of the world we're living in. We are all one, we're all united. And what is also interesting here, I would call this as something intellectual, which I see in the spiritual world. We are all one, we have the same source, so we should accept everything. We don't know one another, but we're coming from the same source, so we should say yes to everything. No, not at all. Not at all. We are having a common source, but it enables us to see the other one, the invitation to spiritual elevation, the other one, also refers to me, and my being wants to be met, so to find this natural pulsation and to be liberated, to be set free. And it is quite interesting to see this, because for me the relationship really comes to this particular point of where we meet. Not everything is a problem, but it's an opportunity to have pulsations together, to dance together, and to find this natural movement in order to feel much better with the other one. And that's where we find the harmony. We don't find harmony because we're perfect human beings. We're all imperfect beings, but the nature is perfect. And into this imperfection, how can I meet all the things emerging in order to find this nature which is perfect? How can the imperfect be touched by this perfection of the human being? I am, you are, and we are, we all are. Marie Bernadette says, your facility of being is so easy, but for me it was very difficult to remain in the being. Is there a kind of trick that it's could be done better? It's a practice. It's a kind of training. It's like every athlete. So before coming an expert in his or her sport, before going to the Olympics, it took him or her years. So he didn't train 1 hour per day, the whole day almost, during days, weeks, months, years. And for me, coming back is the same. I am involved at every moment when I am aware that I'm not, I'm coming back to this moment. And so, for instance, when I'm in conflict with my child or with my student, then I'm going back to this moment, not in order to be right and to close off. No, I'm coming back to this particular moment. I'm grasping this opportunity of what is happening to come back here and now, to release all beliefs, all identities, all the things I believe that should be, all obstacles, to see what I really want to choose and come back to the relationship. So of course, it's a training. And yes, it's quite easy for me today, but it doesn't mean that there are moments, well, there are moments where everything goes wrong, of course. And of course, it no longer has anything to do with what I went through 2, 5, or 10 years ago. And I lived in a spiritual community, and I was married. Also, I had the wish that our relationship would be an elevation relationship and would be waking up our real nature. So, and I had years of practice to come back to the very instant, to this innocence, to choose love. But it wasn't just like that, magically. It's a practice that was integrated progressively. And even after many years, after teaching for so many years, I want to show places where it is not yet entirely natural. And I continue to grow in some places where it is integrated and where life is being invited differently, and where there are other potentials. But it's always interesting to discover and what is invited to these places. Where can I still grow? What are the new things I can still learn? And what was right for me at some time, which was magnificent, well, today has no longer a taste, there's no longer a meaning. It's meaningless. So something else is coming up, something is being proposed, just to, and we drop the idea we had, and we always continue to evolve. And so at a certain time, it's not something that is fixed. It's not a place where you reach on one day, because we are already there. We will never go any further than where you are already. And at the same time, there is an evolutive movement, a constant movement through the globality, through the human being, which is expressing him or herself in 8 billion different ways. And I'm also joined to the other 8 billion people on this planet. So the evolution, what is taking place globally, is also the same evolution than the 8 billion individual. And when you understand this, and when each and every one of us have our own rhythm, and where we cannot blame the others for it, it's really love, this understanding. of the rhythm of each and every one, where everyone finds him or herself. The difficulties we come across in life offers a new possibility, I believe, for our world in which we can live today. So the trick, Marie Bernadette, in order to express it simply and to be practical and concrete, it is essential to do some meditation, whether it's through movement, whether it's sitting down, isolated, and being able to go back and to stand or take a step backwards of your own being, no longer thinking. And when I think I'm no longer Armelle, just closing your eyes, I'm here. Just being there. What is in the area between two words? What is the silence between two music notes? So we're coming back to this more and more, and our attention is also drawn to this space in between, so that the time present, and then what emerges is the expression of your being that doesn't need any definition at all. So the more you've practiced this, and the more you will see that the background of your awareness will come to the front, and your expression will be much clearer, your whole identity. And the more you practice this, you will see indeed that there is a dance being created between you and the other one, between you and the world, you and life, you and outside life. And you will see the outside reflects the inside. And this is really a practice that has to be done on a daily basis. And this in order to recognize that we are all one, and that the other one is me. And for me, it's all these things, all these truths, all these pointers that point to the fact that we're one, and that invites us to come back over and over to our real nature, and to see that this movement of identification, expansion, suffering, expansion, contraction, expansion, as a matter of fact, is totally normal. It's the heart beating. So when I'm contracted, and then, okay, I unleash, there is really a pulsation which you go through, which is totally natural. And in this pulsation, in each contraction, there's an invitation to expansion. And in each contraction, an invitation to expansion. And when I stop blaming my suffering, or when I stop believing that I'm doing something wrong when I'm in the contraction, well, there is a real release, and that's the expansion. And for me, this is what we practice. That is really practice, but it's at every moment. It's now, 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 and now, and now. And all this, it should really become what you do on a daily basis. That also, can I continue? And then I've discovered just lately the meditation, which is bringing me more than full awareness. I feel more in line, more stable. So I don't know the difference, unfortunately, the full conscience. But I know all the things I'm teaching are very close to it. And in any case, for me, the more you're present in the present, the more you're present for yourself, and the more you feel secure, also secure your child. There is something And the alignment and stability you're referring to is what the child needs in order to feel secure, to feel safe. And that's where you have the link and the connection. And that's what a child really needs. Yeah, and he says, yes, it helps my adolescent a lot. Thank you. Yes. She was telling the story of the child turning around the balloon. And then there was... do you have other examples where you can see how all this is happening, this transition? Yes, for instance, there was a moment where I lived with my nephew and his mother. We came back from a holiday, and her mother just picked us up from the airport. And they had a discussion. They were sitting in the back of the car, and they had a discussion, and they didn't agree on something, and it got very hectic. And so I tried to act as a mediator. And I saw that they were all in their own, sticking to their own position. And I saw the mother. His mother had become a little girl in her suffering. On the other side, there was another person. So it didn't match because there were two little girls that were suffering. And then I had to tell my niece and to my mother, well, she needs a mother. I didn't tell my niece, of course. I told them separately, of course. So you cannot enter in these stories. What she now needs, the fact that she doesn't feel comfortable, is that she needs a mother. And what place? It was my niece who was very often the mother, and the mother was very often the child, because they entered in the game of the hurt child, so her positioning was not correct. Her positioning was a child positioning that forced my niece to become dominant, to play the role as a mother, which is not the role of a child, even though she's 19 today. But that's how it was during her childhood. It's not a role at all. And somewhere the relationship was totally turned around, and they never met anymore. They never, because it was hurt against hurt. And once the mother understood, she went back to her daughter in a different way, and her daughter welcomed her, and she jumped into her arms, cried, and so on. So she changed the place. She got out of her suffering, got off her story of being the one that you need to respect, etc. So she got out of this particular structure, and also it enabled my niece to release all the pressure she had, that she had to play a role which wasn't hers, and because she had to take care of her mother, which is not normal, of course. And so these kind of situations, there are a lot of them, and I see a lot of mothers that live all by themselves. Perhaps for the father it's easier to position themselves, but for a mother it's sometimes difficult. They tell me it's very difficult to position myself vis-a-vis my children. It's very difficult to set up a framework, and this creates a lot of insecurity for the children, and they stick to their positions. So it's very important to become aware of that, and that the difficult child, or the child that is looking for limits, that is testing out one of the parents. He wants to test, after all. He's trying he is looking for someone stable he can count upon, because he needs to feel, my mother or my father, will they hold on? But as long as the child doesn't feel this, and it's the same thing with the teacher, as long as the child doesn't feel this particular thing, especially when the children are very sensitive, they're going to hit on it, because they want to find this stability, this feeling of being safe, and that they can express themselves fully. And for me, that's what a parent should do with a child. It's this positioning which is important, whatever what is going through in the classroom. But the most important thing is this positioning. But whatever is being mentioned afterwards, the child has a place and has the latitude to go and look for his own or her own wisdom, because he has this safety margin with the adult and then his connection with the being. So in this universal, in this enormous reservoir, he can go and take the elements he needs. He doesn't need to do something in order to be loved. He is loved because there's this stability, the security, and the adult is in his being. Yes, we all see what you mean, but perhaps could you further develop this particular part? Because whenever there's some distance or when you're impacted, when you're full of the action, a lot of people, when everything becomes very intense, it's very difficult. If we don't have an outside channel, as with the mother here. But what can help in order not to continue to take a step backwards? What I already mentioned, we have to practice this in a moment when there's no stress, no tension. We have to do this on a daily basis. If the practice really becomes a training, a daily training, it will become quite easy. And what I also mentioned earlier on is to see that this contraction is also an invitation to come back to expansion. And it's also important to see that once I'm being caught and what I'm reacting, we shouldn't blame ourselves, but we should have an opportunity, grasp the opportunity of what is happening, the opportunity to grow. And this is already very important, because it's a position that changes totally. It's from guilt, it goes to responsibility. And this slight difference between guilt and responsibility, there's not a lot of difference. And from an energy point of view, it's a totally different world. Guilt will keep me in the old structures, the old patterns, and will entail more sufferings, and will entail also judgment. And where I also have an opportunity is to stop on image and have a flashback, to go back and see what happened before. And that's where I took myself for someone else, and where I started to blame my child. So it wasn't okay for me. So where I got it wrong. And for me, it's important to do this, to try and be retroactive, to look back to see when there are these difficult moments, rather than blaming yourself and learning from it. Because wherever and whenever there's a field where I can learn something, it's an entire learning process. The more I do this, and the more the duration between my reaction and change will become smaller, because I'm getting used to draw lessons and learn from each and every situation, rather than blaming myself and wasting some time. So it's responsibility. Blaming is guilt, and it is totally different. So what will happen the more you practice the presence, the more you practice, the more you recondition yourself for another possibility. So all the things I'm telling you, so I'm not, or you might believe, Abel, that I'm not answering your questions, but it's not only one little thing at a very moment, but we have to recondition everything of take into account all the little things that happen in my life, and the instant of a reaction and of change will become almost instantly. All this is not going to do overnight, of course, in 1 week's time, in 6 weeks, or whatever. It will take some time, not 6 months. And then, so whenever your child reacts, for instance, after some time, we'll say, oh, well, and you do no longer, when you have this experience, you no longer react in the same way as you would have done 6 months before. And what you also have to do is to look at all the different functioning, or learning from all those places where I deviate, where I'm in my sufferings, in my contraction. So learning from that, and that's how I become responsible, that I'm growing, and then all of a sudden that situation changes, relationships changes 6 months later or a year later, say, well, I'm no longer reacting like this. My child is no longer reacting like that. Well, as a matter of fact, this thing finally freed me, set me free. And so it happened naturally without becoming aware even of what was happening. So for me, that is the change. It's the reconditioning by all the little daily choices I make at every moment, and that will lead me, that will bring me to being someone different and defining who I really am, and that will help me to come out of these wounds and to this condition in order to be free, to be whom I am, and to be at the moment, at the very moment to what I also hear, so is that a child, whomever it might be, your child or a child in a class or wherever, the child of your husband or whatever, the other one is not responsible for what lives inside. No. So there's a kind of confusion, and so also it's a total turning around. Yes, we have to see what you said or what you've done is such that it makes me live through a suffering I knew before, but the other one hasn't got a possibility of making me suffer, but the other one is a detonator, it is triggering off what is already inside me. And the other one is there. When there is a suffering, of course, it's there as this reflection, which is triggered off by a particular action, by some words he's saying, by suffering, so, or by the crisp situation. But no, normally it isn't there. It didn't arrive all of a sudden. It has been there for many, many years inside yourself. But I ought to be able to be in contact with this contraction, having so that it can then be set free, and then I'm free at that particular moment.
Yeah, so when we have children, life allows us to understand, to learn something. And that's the title of my book. The children of today are making the parents of tomorrow. So the children are learning us, are teaching us how to be parents and not the reverse. And I was talking about humility before when I was describing today's conference. For me, the adult has to be humble in order to be on the right place in the relationship with the child. That's to say, and it's not that I know everything and you are small and you don't know anything. This is not right. Humility as an adult, as a as a parent, as a teacher, is I am, you are, and together we'll learn about each other and we'll meet. You know things, I know things, and together we are one, and things will be learned from our meeting, and we were talking about parents, but it goes beyond that. It can happen at the college, at school, secondary school. The children are teaching us how to be teachers. And beyond that, beyond being teacher, we learn, beyond being parents, they learned us to be parents, to be and to live, in order to take some distance to cancel the roles we are playing, and we are not playing a role anymore, we are living. We don't have any responsibility anymore. The success and the happiness of the child is not of my responsibility. I have to provide the child with all the love, all the security he or she needs, and the rest will be done naturally, as I would do with the flower. The flower, I will give it some water, but then with the sun, the flower will grow. And if you are watering your child with love and security, your child will succeed and will go where he or she needs to go, because the program, according to me, the program of life is already written. And so when we impose our what we want on of our child, we impede him or her to develop in an harmonious way, and that's where we are going to create difficulties that didn't exist before. And so you mean that many parents are concerned with the fact that their child should be successful, should have a degree, etc. And we need to change this vision. And yeah, that's because in general, that's what their parents wanted for them, and so they are reproducing the same thing for children, their children. But maybe the parents are playing roles and are not so happy, but for instance, the parents studied what their parents wanted them to study, and the parents have financial security with which they should be happy, but in the end, they are not happy, even if they did what they had to. But the parents are playing are living the life for someone else and not their life. So sometimes you need to pause to understand and to check if you are at the right place in your life, and to think about the financial security that is not always providing the happiness. And I think these are essential questions that the children are asking when the children don't want to follow the same way of their parents, or when they don't want to accept all the orders, all the rules imposed by the society, or when the children are not succeeding as well as they should at school. I can see that with a child whose father has stopped to study in the 6th grade, and he has always found jobs. He has the words that were needed to find new jobs, and sometimes he was doing jobs, it was working, not working, but on the whole, he was always okay. And I can see that he is concerned about the success of his son, while the best person to understand that school is not all in life, it's him. And still he is shouting at his son because he doesn't succeed as he wants, and he's putting pressure on his shoulder. And this shows one of an important dimension, because maybe he doesn't want his child to go through the same difficulties he went through during his life. Yes, probably, and that's what's interesting. That's to see that rather the father doesn't question all that. He is asking his child to do what he didn't do before. And I think many parents will recognize themselves. And I think this is really important. Parents have to question themselves on their choices in order to leave their child to make the choices they want. And if you agree, I'd like to read a comment. I lost my parents, I don't have children, but I still have the consciousness of being the child of someone, and I respect all these conditions. It's not clear. It's not clear. The comment is not clear. So I don't understand the comment. Thank you for the clarity of the example you gave about the security of the child. I'm not sure about understanding everything, but at least I heard that my example was easy to understand, and so I'm very happy. And Dominique is saying, I will retain the words pulsation, expansion, contraction. Thank you for conveying this message. Yen is saying, there are so many places between adults who don't live and who are injured. Marie Bernadette is writing, when you have an autistic child, it is difficult to communicate. Yes, because I think autistic children are requiring a huge security, trust, and they need to be met as they are. And what we want from this child is that they act as we do, and sometimes we have difficulties to accept that a child is different. And if we don't accept that a child can be different, then we won't have a good relationship with him or her. When a child has to say hello, or when a child can shout or not, which is the right expression. For autistic children, they sometimes have a chaos in the communication, because they don't all have the injunctions we have, because they don't understand that they have to be polite. They are in their worlds with their expression, and so it's interesting to see where they are in their world, and being in presence, no matter the difficulties of the children, will be beneficial for the children. But seeing what the other is living is also beneficial for you. And there is another comment about non-violent communication. And Dominique is writing, I had adopted this sentence: our children are our masters, and they showed us our problems in order for us to evolve. Yes, absolutely.
Finalement, il n'y a pas que les enfants qui sont les maîtres. C'est que tout ce qui est
So
répercuté, c'est notre maître aussi. Même si
children are the masters, but also our environment. Yes, and we can go beyond.
bah oui.
All that is coming to our conscience is a master for us, because all that happened during the previous years are also our ashram. And when I stop believing that everything is external and to me, and when I am looking to myself, seeing all my problems, my difficulties, and I think that everything is an opportunity to grow, and our behavior towards life, towards all things in life, will make the difference between someone in peace or someone suffering, playing a role, and someone being defined by something different instead of the spontaneous expression of the moment. And when I say I am the love, it's not always clear for people, because when one is saying we are the love, it's not only playing a role, it's living the moment.
Ah oui, d'accord, je dis, et c'est pas du tout.
So, being love can imply being strict, saying no firmly, but it's not being authoritative. It's being yourself. And this is a huge difference that is important to highlight. Okay, you have 15 minutes left, so maybe if some participants want to share their experience, their question. Michelle is saying, is asking why the immune system can challenge you to be you, because when you have your immune system, you have a defense system that we developed according to the injuries we had. So it's interesting to see how the immune system is working and how will it impede you to be you, to retain your spontaneity. When children are touching everything, they are not ill every time they touch something, because they have their immune system that is developed and is working. We also have many things that will prevent the system to work properly. Because we are lacking some emotions, because we have injunctions that we're lacking during our education. And for me, everything is an opportunity to see who I want to be, and with this natural movement of life, where is my spontaneity, and do I have joy, love? And when we are talking about that, we don't think about being ill. And so it's interesting to see that from a wider spectrum, and to see how we learn from life for the children as well as for the adults. And there is also the war in Ukraine, the COVID, and everything that's happening in the world. So what will be my behavior while I am connected to my inner me? And It's an important lesson. Today, for instance, there are the elections in France, and many people will be impacted by what will happen. Yeah, many things are happening in the world currently. And our behavior towards what's happening, how we position ourselves, will leave us free of adopting one behavior or not. Our reaction won't be perfect all the time, but it will be the highest each time, and we'll learn from these moments. And learning with these moments will allow us to reset our way to be, and this way will evolve and will grow. If I face a problem, I will try to find a solution, trying to evolve. It's about how to learn from this difficulty. And the problem is that often people don't go through this process and often fall in culpability of yes, a feeling of guilt. I think we have something to learn to be able to make a conscious choice in order to seize all the opportunities. So all you're saying is that the relationship we have with education is linked to our relationship with our inner person. We don't want to fail, but sometimes we are ignoring some things and we have shortcomings. If we knew that we are all making one, we won't have the relation with Mother Earth as it is. We won't have the relationship with the animals as it is today, and so everything would change. We wouldn't make animals suffer. We wouldn't use the other human beings as we are doing today. The relationship would be totally different. A human being couldn't kill another human being, and clearly we would live in a different world. So today I think it's not necessity to learn to count, but rather learning to know oneself. And the child will be asking for that at a certain moment. But the real education is about who we are, who we really are, understand our inner nature, and that's why I am here today. That's why I am taking part to this summit, and that's why I'm doing my trainings and all my job, because I think making people aware of that is a mission we have to fulfill. We don't have to become engineers, but we need to understand our environment and our inner nature, because our inner nature is about love, is about sharing, and the child will be also involved in that. So when the child is loved, he will grow in a healthy way, because it's natural. Nature is growing, and children will be growing as well in a context of love. They are loved for what we are and not who they are supposed to be. There is a natural growth, and children will evolve naturally. And we will also evolve with them. But for us, it will be a revolution. So we need to have a deformation and then a reset as adults. I've seen the video in which you touched upon your projects that you wanted to set up.
Mais j'ai un peu, en toute honnêteté, j'ai un peu mis de côté parce qu'il y a beaucoup de
I put that aside because I have many projects and I don't know where I am towards our projects, and I'm sure that other people are also doing wonderful things and have taken the same initiative. Sometimes I have a lot of ideas and projects, and sometimes I just want to name them and someone else will put them in place. But it's to have, the idea is to have a space for children. Someone is saying in the comments, we need to trust the natural rhythm of the child, and other schools are also doing that. What's interesting in these schools is to have a space where the children could be descolarized and grow with the rhythm of nature. But what's interesting is that the adults who are taking care of that,
ça a à nouveau fait une petite coupure.
Oui, ça a coupé bien. Oui. Je dis ce qui est magnifique dans toutes ces pédagogies.
So what is great in all these alternative schools is that no matter it can be Montessori, Steiner, or others, the origin is always wonderful, because the creators of these schools are dead, and so every human being is participating to these schools, and according to the evolution of the adults. The adults will be able to work and to manage the school, or he or she is still believing in the traditional way, and there will be shortcomings. But maybe I will create my projects later on or not, I don't know, but the idea would be to help teachers to avoid any difference between adults and children, in order to support the children's action. Maybe a child would like to learn astrophysics. Okay, but if you want to learn astrophysics, you could learn on the internet. You could be in contact with retired astrophysicians, and understand also that older people have a maturity and that they can teach the children. We would like to see meetings and not being seated all day listening to people who are saying the same things every day. And so I'd like to have a project to reach results by meeting people instead of having ex cathedra lessons, and also having exchanges between the teachers in different countries to meet, to create, for the transmission to be direct and not indirect. And we want also the children to ask it and not impose learnings to the children. You have so much enthusiasm when you're explaining your projects. Yes, Anaïs is saying to create some space for the child to listen to his or her natural curiosity. Yes. The title of the conference was Being Parent or Teacher, an Elevation Spiritual Journey for All. Could you imagine if in teachers' schools, instead of knowing that they have to teach children, they would teach adults with another kind of teaching, with alternative teachings? I think there should be an alternative spiritual journey in all alternative schooling system, because otherwise they are teaching, providing a different education without taking any time to enjoy the moment. So what has done is wonderful, but we need to go further, and we need to check what can be improved. When I react, instead of letting things go and being in love, there is something to learn in this crispation, in this limitation. Nothing has been done wrong, but there is a possibility to go beyond. And how can we do to go beyond? And this is interesting. We are in a limited space, for instance. What do we do, and how do we try to go on with this? Because I think we don't need to agree to be in love, but the question to ask is, how do we all live together with all our differences? And the problem of our societies is that we believe we should all live the same way in order to progress. No, that's our diversity that is creating all the richness of life. But if we set a direction, if we set a way to follow in order to enter a box, it won't work. So I need to align to myself with all my differences. You learn, you experiment, and the experience of life will create the person you are. If our policymakers were thinking alike, I think the world would be a better place. So we have a few seconds left. Thank you, Armelle. Thank you, Abel, for organizing the summit. Thank you for sharing all your energy. And Inshallah, we'll continue all together. And now we'll listen to Ashti, who's from Canada, and she's traveling a lot, and she will explain to us, according to the position of the moon, there are ways different ways to live, and it's very interesting because it's not we are not used to hear such things. So there is a transition, a minute of transition. I just want to say to Marie Bernadette, Anaïs, Pascalou, Marie-Agnès, Catherine, Dominique, thank you for all your comments. It's a real pleasure to share things with you. Thank you, Armelle. Thank you. See you soon, Abel. Thank you for your invitation.